Hey, good afternoon. This is John Wilson from All Points TV, and today we have in the studio Adam Gerics. He was here last week, and he's running for prosecutor of Genesee County, and he's got a long history, although he's not a lawyer. Okay, this is interesting, and
Citizen at law is what somebody called me once.
Citizen at law?
Citizen at law.
But people don't know this, but and I think you brought out, there was an interesting point too, that in the origin of the Republic here, there was no such thing as a prosecuting attorney. So that's an interesting thing in itself.
Right.
It shows an evolution or de-evolution, if you want, because the possible of corruption.
I would say de-evolution. I guess I could see both sides now at this point, since we've evolved from that to the other. But maybe you could have something that is a combination of both, because it's too often that crime is committed against somebody and nobody does anything about it. Like what we're going to talk about a little bit today with what my mom's experienced with a hit and run on her vehicle. So, if the cops don't want to do anything, then the individual ought to be able to, take it straight to a judge. I mean, this is what happened. Crime was committed against me. This person needs to be charged and held accountable, instead of relying on some Yahoo public official or some arrogant cop that doesn't want to do their job. So, yeah, citizen at law. At law.
It's another point to bring up too is Abraham Lincoln, the old biographies I read about him. He wasn't really officially a lawyer. I don't think. I think he what they call read law.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, similar to that at law idea.
At law, yeah.
I think also, like I was saying before, it goes back to like old British and that admiralty law or whatever that's supposed to apply to like the masses. In terms of what rights that they were granted over time, because of course there was a time when people didn't have any rights in Europe, the serfs or whatever, so there was no like board or executive class to say, hey, I'm a discriminated class, let alone whether a crime was committed against them or prima nocta was instituted by.
That's horrible. People don't know what that is either.
Right.
I mean, very few people are. Ignorant of that.
Well, what was the movie? Was the Mel Gibson movie, right?
Braveheart.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Braveheart, yeah. That's where people know it from probably the most. But
Which is a very horrific practice,
yes.
Barbaric, disgusting.
Yeah, I don't know how men could have taken it without getting violent back then,
but you know what?
That's suppression, So
I have friends who are fascinated by royal families of the world, and I try to tell them they're thugs. There's nothing aristocratic about the aristocrats.
Absolutely.
There's nothing astonishing. There's they're a bunch of bullies who get and network with other bullies. They kill and destroy people, grab their stuff, divide the spoils, and then say, you can have this area, we'll have that area. The choicest land goes amongst us, and everybody live there. You can be oppressive and brutal as you choose to.
Right.
So and the thing is, it's the reason why I've always been suspicious of the left, because government controlling stuff, I think, is a capitulation back in that era. That's what I think.
Well, it's like the aristocracy, idea supposedly is gone, but we see that with our own Congress people and families that have been in politics for decades. The Kildees, Dale Kildee, Dan Kildee. I mean, the prime example.
Look at the Dingle family.
Well,
John Dingle.
Right.
He just passed away a couple years ago, but his wife's now holding the seat that he had, and his dad had the seat that he held for 40, 50 years. His dad was in the FDR administration. Wow. That's almost 80 years of one family running the power base out of a state.
Right, and of course, the Kennedys and all that. But back to the royal families for a second. I got interested one time in where the badge came from, why they carry a badge or whatever. What is that? Where did that symbolism come from? And it dates back to knights. Knights of the Round, knights for each different little fiefdom and kingdom and whatnot. So, instead of the big giant shield now, they've miniaturized it more as a symbol.
They're called the shield. A lot of times referred to as a shield.
Right.
Yeah. There's a TV series called The Shield. Remember that?
Yeah.
But the
idea of what you were saying is that there's a group of wealthy people that appoint an archetype defender, enforcer, or whatever. They always like to spin it to me to be a more positive thing, and it's like a hate love speech that comes out of trying to defend what a knight or a cop is in society. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? How people can talk out of either side of their face and talk about how much they actually love you, but really it's like this whole weird kind of like hatred that you can hear and sense in what they're saying. They do that with the police. They're there to protect and serve. They're there to do all these nice positive things, but the reality of the majority of the time is quite the opposite, you know, and you know, they've done that for centuries now, from these fiefdoms and kingdoms down to today. It's, you know, ironic that the badge dates back to the Knights of the Round, as it were. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I think you make some great points there. I learn from you. Like, most of the people I do come in, I do learn from. I mean, that's what's the interesting part of doing this.
That's why I love doing this shit too. Yeah.
Because
That's
you never know who's going to come up with something. Well, years ago, I was against marijuana and I was against gay marriage. And I argued with one guy, I can't remember the guy's name, it was in college, but he was more of a libertarian. And he wasn't a religious person, but he made the point about gay marriage being basically a property rights at the core of it. And he
Absolutely.
convinced me of that. Not that I'm not like pro-gay, I'm going to join the pride parade and all that, but I believe people have a right to dispose of their incomes and
Absolutely.
and that's what it's basically boiled down to in a nutshell. You know, that's what it's about. And because, you know, if you're ill or one of the partners is ill, the family, because they couldn't recognize the relationship, you know, publicly,
right. Well,
they could shut them out.
Well, yeah, when I was with ACT UP years ago, in the AIDS mid part of the AIDS movement, that was one of the biggest issues, because you had couples that had been together for 10, 20 years, or maybe even just a couple of years, but still, they got infected, they got sick, the parents or the family came in, the person that had been their lover for however long, and all of the property that was associated with that person, they no longer had any rights to as soon as the family walked in. So, you know, for us back then, it was not this issue of marriage, like you're saying. We looked at it back then strictly as like a civil contract between two, you know, grown individuals. And the fact that it morphed into this like marriage thing, it loses that aspect of it. People don't realize that, you know, okay, well, just because you have a piece of paper that says that you're married in a church or something that it offends all these other people, seems more like a parade of the idea rather than the serious aspect of, you know, a civil contract between two people as to whose property is what and who gets to control it, who has power of attorney and stuff like that. You know, so that got lost. You know, I agree with that entirely.
No, because what it boils down to that, I believe that if you're not looking out for your own self-interest, you're probably not being rational.
Right.
If you're also not also interested in the fact that something might be happening that could be done to you that you would find terribly disagreeable with, just to put in polite terms, you should, if you see those things coming up, you should speak out against it. So I mean,
well, I think that what I was trying to get at was that, is it a gay right because you're gay and you have a partner that you suddenly now have like a common law right to things? I mean, if that's the case, then I absolutely agree with that. But like you're saying, T, watching out for your own detail, I think, just from a legal perspective, and I'm not a lawyer, but, you know, once again, it always comes down to, is it in writing? Well,
Right.
you know, what was that? It was some sitcom where they got married just to get the health care.
oh, I don't know, pronounce you Chuck and Larry. That was Adam Sandler what's his name? Something.
But you know, that's the point. It's like
King of Queens. He was in that. I don't know his last.
The big guy, the security guard guy.
Yeah, security guy. Yeah, Bart. Yeah, Mall Bart.
He was in that cop TV show too. Anyway, that's what it boils down to.
Kevin James.
Yeah,
Kevin James.
Yeah. Is, you know, if you don't have it in writing, then it's weird to come back after the fact and scream about gay rights, because even straight people have this stuff in writing, prenuptial agreements and so on. So it's weird to me that you get that gray area with rights when was actually already a legal solution, you know, for it.
Right, that's what this guy was arguing, you know what I mean? I was vehemently against it, very shut off from it. We had a pretty loud argument for like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And he made the intellectual argument, and that ended up being appealed to the libertarian basis that I already had going. And it's basically, you're right. I can't fight this on that issue right there, because it's like you have it, and the thing is, the state's not so concerned about somebody misappropriating your property. They want it for themselves.
Well, that's
okay.
it. Yeah.
That's what they want. Don't think that state's there to be beneficent or beneficent to you. Benevolent.
Yeah.
They're not there for you. Okay,
No,
they're not.
no.
Let's face it. Look at the price of their salaries. Do you really think they're there being public servants?
No, absolutely not. No.
No.
Absolutely not.
They have functionaries who actually do the work that they're supposed to be elected to office for. They carry that out on a day-to-day, and they get way less than the guy who's got the title.
Well, that's the basis, part of the basis of my campaign here. You know, it's like I see these people, whether they're city council people or congressmen or whomever they are out there working in the public official capacity. The vast majority of the time, I see them just sitting on their butt, not doing much of anything.
Right.
You know, and a lot of other people doing all the important stuff for them. So, I mean, it's pretty lazy, it's apathetic, it's exploitive, and it's obvious. And I sometimes I wonder how they can get away with it for so long with, you know, all these people watching. But, you know, it's up to the people, I guess, and that's what it always comes back to, you know.
Well, people are afraid to be the one to stick up, because to stick up for their rights, because they realize, okay, I like to tell people this too. Okay, even if you do something wrong, maybe it's like an infraction, maybe something not violent, you get arrested. Now you got to go through a trial, or you have to representation, and you don't have the money for a lawyer. Guess what? You're screwed.
Yeah.
That public defender is going to cut a deal, and a lot of times that's not even germane to the charges you're initially be charged with. They just want to make it go away quick as fast as possible.
Right.
So I mean,
The majority of the time, I got lucky with, like I said on the last show, with the one public defender I had when they tried to put 3 felonies against me on that arrest in front of my house when I filmed them. And it was a pretty simple solution: breach of peace. First of all, I didn't breach the peace, and if you go in strictly by the local ordinance, part of the requirement was I had to be intoxicated in a public area. One, I wasn't intoxicated, and 2, I was on my front lawn.
Right.
So there was no breach of peace. I had every right to film and say whatever I wanted to say, and everybody saw it. I didn't threaten anybody. In fact, I was pointing the finger at a thief, and, you know, what I consider a common criminal in Carriagetown.
So do you want to? What do you want to go into the the video for the first, the most recent entanglement with the Flint PD?
Yeah. Well, little preface. July 4th, I don't know about all of you out there or but I can't take the fireworks that just went on this year. It was just out of control. And I was trying to keep the dogs calm July 4th at my mom's house. And, you know, it's just going on everywhere, all the way around the block, everywhere. And I think I was like sensory overload by like 11:30. I passed out on the couch. Woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning to Officer Tuttle in the video telling us that my mom's van had been slammed into out front at around 11:30. So it took him 3 hours to get there. But this video is not that night, but it's like 2 weeks later, because that's basically what happened. This kid from whose sister lives down the street was driving her car drunk, slammed into my mom's vehicle, pushed it about 30 feet, and then left the scene and went down the block and parked the vehicle. This is what we are told that night by the sister and the Officer Tuttle, and because she wants to try to work it out and pay my mom or whatever to fix the car or whatever, which you can't, it's total loss. He was counseling my mom not to do a crash report because it wouldn't do her any good for insurance. Well, that's not relevant to the crime that had taken place, and that was my argument. And I got browbeat by him that night. So then, after 2 weeks of this crap, because the van's irrelevant. She's already got a new van. We're not trying to. I mean, these people should be held responsible for what they did. It's not even about the civil aspect of it, which I don't believe Tuttle had any real right to sit there and to try to discuss or negotiate a civil matter. A crime was committed. That's all he should have focused on. But at any rate, he counseled my mom not to do a crash report. So this video is from 2 weeks later when we finally got him back there on this issue, and then he still didn't want to take the crash report. And I'll just stop there. You can watch the video, and then the second video will kind of help explain it.
Well, since you can't hear the video yourself, so I'll just shut down your mic, and then we'll go after it wraps up, the video ends, we'll come back together and talk, all right?
Right.
All right, so here's the video, folks, so listen to it. And by the way, I would also like to put my addition on. If you are Officer Tuttle, or you're a friend or family member of him, and you feel like he was unfairly spoken about, please contact us. We'll give you equal time. Obviously, we wish to do that. It would be the example the journalist used to be, or supposed to have been. So anyway, we'll play the video, and we'll come back to you, Ed, all right?
Right.
I can make a report for you. You chose not to. He kept arguing, trying to say you want a report. But I advised you. Did you want one? You said
I don't recall that, but
and he even spoke to my sergeant, who's also here, and I could also get on scene if you really need. But I told you that on scene.
well,
I said
I
if
don't
you choose
recall
to
that.
if you choose to have that handled, that's on you guys.
I have known people that have gotten crash reports after the fact, so I don't know.
Not after
so.
they spoke to, not after an officer came on scene.
Yes.
Well, per policy, that's not supposed to happen.
So you're telling me you're not going to do anything?
I can get a sergeant over here to speak to you, if you would prefer that. But that's how the policy works.
Well,
I can get him over here.
How about a lieutenant? How about a
Lieutenant's at the desk. Lieutenant won't be on the road.
Well,
103. 210 available.
because the young man was drunk.
Doc, can you fly this way when he gets a chance?
So in other words, you're going to let a drunk driver go?
He was not on. He
No, because his sister told him
Wait.
to
He
leave
just
because
was just
drunk.
going to say he was not on scene, right?
That'd be fine.
No, he wasn't down there because his sister sent him away because he was drunk.
Yeah, this officer explained all that. I heard
I
it.
spoke to both of you guys. Both of you guys were in understanding that you guys did not know how to report. Both of you guys were in that understanding.
Because you made it sound that we would be in some terrible trouble because neither one of us had insurance.
Neither one of you have insurance.
But my car wasn't going anywhere.
So the only thing a report's going to do is be in the air. It's not going to do anything for you. You don't have insurance.
I can still request a report. Whether I use it or don't use it is not relevant.
Yeah, you can. When I was first on scene, and I asked you for it. If you
that's
want
not
one.
what
I never
you-
refused. I refused him because he was not the owner. I asked you, and you said you did not want one.
Well, at that time, I was mistaken.
Okay, but even on recording, you even just admitted you refused. I mean, you did not. You didn't refuse. You said you did not want one.
Because you counseled her not to.
Yeah.
No, I said I have no problem taking one for her, not you. You're not the owner.
But I sat here and listened to you counsel her not to because you said something about insurance. It's not going to do anything because it's no.
Insurance will not. If you
it's
don't
a
have
no-fault
insurance, it's not
state.
going- yeah,
Can I
which
finish?
is all the truth.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
I'm not going to sit here and be interrupted like I was the other night. I sat here and listened to you counsel her not to on some bullcrap insurance claim. That's not what it's about. The kid was driving somebody else's car, which the person who reported it told you that. He left the scene. She told you that. And he hit this car and pushed it 30 feet. You saw that. So you have
I
a
don't
driver.
know how far it was pushed.
Well, it was all the way over there, and that's well over 30
In the
feet.
center of their driveway.
You're going to deny that? Because it hasn't moved from that spot since we moved it backwards.
All right.
You counseled her not to over an insurance claim.
That's why I said would not benefit her.
For insurance. We're not talking about insurance. We're talking about the crime that was committed. He hit the car. He fled the scene. You know that as a fact because that's what you told us from the information you got from the girl who owns the car.
And you guys knowing that chose not to make a report that night.
Because you counseled her not to. See, I'm her power of attorney. And when she gets into a bind like this, then I have to take over. Okay? A crime was committed. We need a report filed for that crime. This has got nothing to do with insurance or replacing the vehicle or any of those civil matters that you didn't have any really right to counsel her on. This is about a crime that was committed. That's it. He committed a crime. You know it. You were told it by the car owner, and you let it slide. So what she needs is a crash report.
I can't be made right now. And you can speak to my sergeant once he gets here.
What, Hoydick?
No. What is the day shift officer?
Because I got a litany of texts from this kid admitting that he hit the car and ran off.
Okay.
So there's proof of a crime.
And you guys knew that on scene. You guys knew that on scene.
And you tried to bully me by trying to counsel my mother into counseling her into doing a report. And then your partner walked me around the corner to try to keep me out of the situation, when the fact of the matter was I was correct that night, and you still forcefully bullied my mom into not doing a crash report over some bull crap about insurance.
I asked her.
Really, because your demeanor is very different now that you're on film. Very different.
I was on film that day too.
Yeah, and I got it. And you were cocky, and you were cutting me off, and you weren't letting me speak.
Yeah, when my sergeant gets here, you can speak.
It's all right. I'm going to make sure this is published. And we're going to pursue it higher than this.
We're back. So anyway, what do you have to? Now you did try to tell your mom at the night of that actual accident. They actually, when this crash occurred, to file a complaint, right? Yeah. So
I was pissed.
people gonna.
I mean, I was pissed. I
critical.
woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning to a
let's-
cop banging on my freaking door telling me my mom's car is totaled. I was pissed off. You're damn right, you know.
So it was the cops that come to the house?
Yeah.
All right, okay, so I just like, but I'm trying to flesh this out, get people,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I know the first thing they're gonna say is, well, we didn't see the exchange they had that night before, and some it's legit, I mean, the questions would be legit. That's what, you gotta play
Yes,
the,
but I mean, a car hit another car and then the driver left. So, and he told us that night when he knocked on the door. Like I said, I fell asleep at 11:30-ish, and that's supposedly when it happened. So I'm kind of stunned that it happened 40 feet, 50 feet from me, and I didn't hear it or anything. Like I said, he pushed the car like 30 feet. So yeah, I was pretty angry, and my mom, you know, she's like 60-some years old. She doesn't like anxiety. She gets, you know, too excited about certain situations. It's understandable, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and her car is wrecked. How is she supposed to feel? You know, she's already overwhelmed. And then this cop wants to start talking about civil issues. Well, nobody cares about insurance. The owner of the car apparently is the one that called, it's obvious, to cover up for her brother, because I thought when you hit somebody or something like that, you're supposed to stay there. You, the driver. So you've got the owner already ferrying her brother off, telling the cop this, and then him trying to tell my mom that the crash report's not going to go anywhere. Well, what are you talking about? You're the one that just informed us of the crime.
right, so,
Well, you know, I don't get why he would even bring up the civil issue when neither party had insurance, or it's a no-fault state. We're not talking about civil matters.
I think you make a valid point, because, I mean, if you didn't follow through on anything, maybe they could have possibly charged you as a something, you know, some kind of arcane law or rule or statute they could throw at you down the road.
Well,
You
actually, he did threaten my mom that if we didn't move the car back 30 feet, he was going to impound it. I mean, here's a crime committed against her, and then he's bullying her at the end of it. You know, and like I said, that night, and what you heard me say to the officer 2 weeks later, I wasn't shutting up about wanting a crash report. His buddy didn't like the fact that I was trying to film it. It was totally blackout. He didn't get barely any good footage, but walked me around the corner to the other side of the yard trying to get me out of the conversation so Tuttle could continue to counsel my mom against a crash report, because the girl that reported it was there talking about how she was going to help my mom out with the vehicle. Well, again, are you, Tuttle, going to come back and like play enforcer and make them pay for,
Right.
you know, why was that even a part of the conversation, was my whole point that night. And for 2 weeks, me and my mom had a little hostile, you know, situation because of it, because I couldn't let something slide like that. If that was my vehicle, he wouldn't have left without making a crash report, period. We've been there a lot longer than that, you know.
See, the thing is, another thing is too, because and he was going to say, he could probably retort to this all saying like, well, I might a counselor, but she didn't have to take my advice. But the thing is, when a
tried to say
person, a general public member deals with a cop, they're what they have color of authority. You know,
Right.
they're in the uniform, they have the badge, they have the,
Right.
the utility belt with all the weaponry on it.
Right, like
And let's
Batman.
face it, they do that.
Right.
Well, necessary, of course, but the whole presence creating is like intimidation factor. And that's what they're depending on, a large
Absolutely.
portion of it.
Absolutely. Well, I think
Yeah.
that's demonstrated in that video is his callousness. He doesn't like even care.
Well, of course, a person could object to this, and I can hear people, I can anticipate what the reaction is going to be. So I'm just going to say, well, look at Flint. We got people going around and murdering people, and this is incidental comparison to that.
Doesn't that really? Okay, well then, what's the point in even having him?
I-
What
I-
is the point in even having him?
Okay, so it's-
besides, I gotta say, all y'all suckers out there that keep trying to kill people, like what happened at Hollywood Plaza, that reminds me of a shooting that happened some years ago, just up past the old Don Donuts there, just past Pasadena, I think it is, where somebody busted out with an AK-47, and there was like, in the news, there was like hundreds of shells on the street, but nobody was hit. We're talking about murders in Flint. Come on, man. Some of these guys can't even hit the side of a barn, you know, and the rest of it's personal. So those cops are pretty much useless until after the fact anyway when it comes to murder.
Well, yeah. Let's face it. I
you know,
mean,
when a real crime is committed, not a crime of passion or drug-related shooting or something like that, but an actual crime where somebody, it's known who the person is that committed the crime and where they went, it still applies. I mean, how do they get to be selective? And, you know, it's interesting, too, because during that 2-week period and trying to follow up on this, I called the state police to try to see if I could go that route to report it. They said that they won't come in to Flint unless they're invited by the Flint police to come in, which, of course, I didn't expect them to. But they also said that it is strange that they didn't do a crash report because it does sound like a felony probably was committed, felony hit and run was committed. However, the lady on the phone said, well, that just must be how they do things in Flint. What does that mean? They get to pick and choose what laws they get to enforce? I mean, you know, we're not talking about litter. We're not talking about murder either, but we're still talking about a serious crime. I've been throwing out the what ifs to my mom for the last 3 weeks. What if he didn't hit the van? What if he came through the fence and hit me on the couch? Because we're talking 40 feet is all. You know, what if instead of going down that street, he was coming this way and came through the fence and went into your bedroom, you know? I mean, what if it was the guy's house across the street? What if it doesn't matter, he hit somebody and he left.
He's right.
You know, so...
But the thing is, I mean, is it the reason why they try to put such heavy charges against drunk drivers, against drivers with any kind of under the influence of anything, is because there's loss of life that could occur when they're operating a vehicle under the influence? So therefore, they're putting these laws in place, and you can just say they're probably well-intended, but if they have no intention of actually possibly enforcing them, why the hell have them in the first place?
Well, right. Well,
Right, I mean-
isn't the distracted driving thing the equivalent to drunk driving? I'm sure I read that somewhere where all these people that are driving like this, you know, on their phones, it's just as dangerous. And in some places it's banned, and they do get ticketed for it. But I mean, they're not. The cops are doing that themselves.
Well, yeah.
So.
Every time a cop goes by me on the street, I see them look at their phone or on their phone. They're driving and
Right,
well, they
yeah.
have a video. Did you see this video on YouTube? It was actually on Facebook, but it's on you. This guy was a bicyclist. He was going up. He came up to a corner of an intersection.
Oh, yeah, and he got hit
And
by
the
the
cop
cop?
turns from the oncoming traffic and plows right into him. And he actually admits on recording saying,
Oh, I'm sorry, dude.
I was on the phone. I was too busy on the phone. I mean, if I was that guy, I'd say, gee, I can retire now. I could choose. I would
for
be
real.
mentally picking out where I can retire at. You know.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
except for he had to be seriously. That's the other problem with our system. You know, is to really get any kind of justice or payoff on that. Lawyers, they'll tell you got to be injured. It just can't be a indiscretion. That's an obvious failure on the part of an officer. They want you bloody and stitched up and.
But if a civilian would do this, a citizen. Another thing is, two people like to give you for edification. The cops are not part of the military. They are citizens. They wear uniforms. They're part of the law enforcement establishment,
Right.
but they are citizens.
Right.
They are no different than you. When they're no longer functioning in the course of their their duties, they have to live and abide by the same rules as the rest of us. So keep that in mind. Okay.
Right.
They also don't wear capes and jump buildings in a single bound, and can't stop bullets. And they're very vulnerable human beings for the good and for the bad. And I just don't. When I argue with people about cops online, though, the amount of hero worship that I hear from these people is just. Are you people actually made it from zero age to making decisions? You're buying a house, and you have this adoration for people in uniform. I don't find that. I don't find that something I can appreciate, or is that something I really can genuinely respect.
Well,
I think it's weirdness.
Yeah, it's these bubbles that people get into, you know. I mean, well, I'm sure Tuttle's in his own little bubble there. He can indiscriminately decide when to enforce certain laws as they take place. You know, the second video is better even because his sergeant, who wouldn't give me his name, just demonstrated everything that you're talking about, relying on the toughness, the imposing badge, and Batman belt and all that stuff. But I mean, lots of people have experienced this type of thing.
So you want to go to video soon, or do you want to set it up first, or?
Yeah, it's just to get it out of the way. It's
Okay.
kind of a long one. You can
Okay.
cut it off whenever you want, I guess.
Well,
but-
no, I'll let it play out, because I want to give people the best representation, because they're still going to have questions, they're going to have their objections, especially the law enforcement families or the LEOs that might be listening to this, and we want to give them as much coverage so that if they want to contact us and they still have questions, concerns, or outrage, we'll allow them to express it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
anyway, I'll put your mic.
Let me preface it. So what you saw was Tuttle not wanting to do it, and they supposedly called a sergeant in to oversee.
What's the time lapse between the two events?
It was maybe 2 hours. Well, no. Tuttle came, and then he called the sergeant, and then he told us the sergeant wasn't going to come, and Tuttle left. And then about 10 minutes later, a different sergeant apparently showed up.
Okay.
And so, you know, what we were doing was taking the necessary steps. If an officer won't do something for you like you think he's supposed to, then you can call his superior, follow the chain of command. So
Right.
the sergeant. After the sergeant, we then went to the lieutenant, but I'll get to that after the video. So.
Okay. We'll play it, and then we'll come back to you.
Yep. Okay.
Were you just responding for Tuttle? Are you the sergeant? He just said you weren't coming. Well, we need a crash report, man.
Can't have a crash report, sir.
Why not?
Were you in an accident?
It's right there.
You in an accident?
My mom's car got hit.
And were you driving?
No, it was sitting right there.
If you're driving, working, you can't request anything.
My mom is. My mom is.
Adam, let's go.
No, come on out. He said I can't ask for the report. You come and ask for the report.
Tell me no, it's a waste of my time.
The son, I mean the brother over there, won't help them out. They can't have them help pay.
It's got nothing to do with it.
And they expect us to say, oh, I was drunk, but okay,
That's got nothing to do with it. And I got text after text from this kid admitting that he hit the car and left the scene.
so therefore it's over. You can't make a report just because you want to go over the I advise that, and then I also advise that. You understand what he's saying?
No,
No.
Okay,
I should be able to get a crash report.
not when you, so initially when it happened,
He advised me not to.
That's it. She wanted to. He advised her not to. Over and over again. I was doing the same thing then I'm doing now, insisting on a crash report. He's the one that insisted that she did not do it. She didn't have a choice. He wasn't going to do it. And like I said, I got text after text of this kid admitting that he hit that car and left the scene.
that part doesn't matter if two parties agree to work it out amongst themselves.
And again,
Then, hold it don't work out, you can't come back and get a police.
That's not what happened. I
I want to hear you because
He told both of us since we didn't have insurance, it would cause more trouble for us to have a crash report. In other words, he talked me out of it. I didn't decide. I wasn't given a choice.
I mean, that's just telling you the fact.
My car was sitting still. I wasn't doing anything.
I'm not disagreeing with that. But I'm saying,
I was in bed sleeping when it happened.
I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is, that's not, if you decide not to do it, that's not.
I didn't decide. He decided.
He decided.
What did you just tell me?
He said that we would get in trouble if we decided to have a crash report. He didn't give me a choice of having one or not.
Again, he counseled her, strong-armed her out of a crash report.
Okay, it's not your vehicle.
So-
You're not involved.
That's right, Adam.
I'm talking to the owner of the vehicle.
Yeah, and I have
Your
power.
house or wherever you
And I have power of attorney, so I do have a right to say something.
show me some paperwork.
I got it inside. You want to see it for real? I'll get it. I'll get it.
All I wanted is a crash report. That's all I wanted. It's what I should have been given the other day, 2 weeks ago, and I didn't get it.
Back up. Lay down.
And he is my power of attorney. And being a senior citizen, I believe I am being bullied into something that I shouldn't have been.
How did he bully you?
By telling me that it would do me no good.
That's not bullying.
The tone of voice he had, yeah, it was.
That is not bullying now.
Oh, okay.
Durable power of attorney right here.
Let me see.
Signed and sealed.
Yep.
So when she can't handle situations like this, I take over.
It's nice to know that the police are going to take care of their senior citizens.
That night, I insisted on a crash report. Insisted, and then got walked around the corner by the other officers so that I couldn't interject my statements into the situation.
He is my power of attorney.
That is medical, that is financial, that is everything. Durable power of attorney. Notarized and everything.
I don't see medical.
It's,
What
Every
I
it's
say.
in
page.
there.
It's every page. You got durable power of attorney, appointment of the agent, me, effective date.
I'm looking at this right here. What does that say? Financial affairs and property. Okay.
Yep, property. Right there. My powers. Listed, banking, government, investments, retirement plan, taxes, insurance,
Give it
real
here.
estate,
I didn't see it.
personal property, legal advice and proceedings, estate plannings.
You gonna give it to me or not?
Well, I mean, I don't.
Jesus
Do you really
Christ.
need to read the whole thing? Because it's all there,
Yes.
signed and sealed.
I need to see that it's signed and sealed.
It is signed and sealed.
It's notarized at my bank.
For the express purposes of
So
situations like this.
Where did you get this done at? So my question is this:
These are
I
standard
don't see
documents.
this is done like through a judge.
It doesn't have to be. It's notarized. She signed it.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Dude.
Dude, what? I've got 3 attorneys.
Well,
They're going to tell.
Call them right now. and
Believe
ask
me,
them.
Monday morning I will.
Call them and ask them if this has to be. You can't just fill out this paperwork and be like, oh, I got power. of
Really?
attorney.
Why didn't the bank tell me that then?
The bank is not a judge.
Neither are
have to go
you.
through the
You don't have
courts.
the authority to decide that. A
You have to
judge,
go
a
through the
judge
courts.
doesn't have to have the authority to assign that. To assign. She can assign whoever she wants durable power of attorney. I guarantee you, you walk into a hospital and I hand that to them, they're going to respect that.
Yes.
If I walk into a
you
bank, they're gonna
a doctor
respect
can
it.
discuss the medical whatever if she signs.
Right
it.
down to me deciding whether or not to pull the plug. So I don't see
not
how
gonna
this
do
any
anything
different.
I'm
They're
gonna
not
talk
gonna
to
do
her,
anything.
okay? Because I think, in my opinion, she's more than capable of telling me
No,
what
I
happened.
have a heart condition. This is aggravating.
It was in the middle of the
Everything I
night.
have
She was
wrong
totally
with
upset.
me.
What part of this aren't you understanding?
I have the power and the right.
I'm not talking to you. I would like to speak with her. Okay?
Well, then you can assign them to talk to me, because that's
I
what
know,
that
dear,
says.
That's why you're here.
Well, then tell him, so he can stop
He
saying
is
that.
the one that is going to take care of this for me.
So
Here, I don't need it all
what-
wrinkled and screwed up. I'll put it back in there. Thank you.
Your little funky attitude really starting to bug.
He's not doing anything
I'm not doing
wrong.
anything wrong.
He's not doing anything wrong.
Not doing anything wrong.
Not a thing.
So
That's exactly the attitude that he has.
when I'm reading something, you don't snatch it out my
You
hand.
weren't reading it. You were trying to put it back into
Okay,
the
you don't
folder.
snatch it out my hand.
He didn't snatch it.
Oh, so you do have
Your definition of snatching and mine are two different
Okay,
things.
well that's my definition.
Well, yours is wrong.
Alright.
Anyways,
So what
you're
are
going to
you?
screw
what
a
are
senior
you-
citizen.
This has nothing to do with
Yes, it does.
screwing
I am a senior
me.
citizen. Yes, it does.
So anyway,
And you are aggravating my conditions just as much as what happened 4th of July. I'm already having chest pains.
do you need an ambulance?
I have my nitro, but when I need it, I will call an ambulance. But I don't need the aggravation, and I don't need the chest pains. They're already getting ready to do a heart cath on me because I've been having chest pains for over 3 months. But that's neither here nor there. I have medical conditions, including PTSD, which you aren't helping matters much at all.
I haven't done anything.
Oh,
I haven't pulled a gun or
You're aggravating me
or
by not
because I'm
doing
trying to
your
have a conversation with you.
This is not a conversation. You're telling me what you're not going to do, which you should do.
A conversation goes two ways, and you don't
Well-
tell me what I am or what I'm not going to do. You know what I mean?
Let's go in, Adam.
I know, this is exactly why people
The
want to
police
defund the
department
police.
should be defunded, definitely. Definitely. The police on this force aren't worth.
We're going to take it up
spit
with
to say
a higher
their name.
authority than you, for sure. Flint tax dollars at its best. Oh, I don't, do I? I don't, huh? I can say what I want. I can say what I want.
I'm arresting you because of
He can't arrest me. I haven't done anything wrong. But remember me when you vote, because I'm a write-in candidate for prosecutor. He's got the card. I'm going to make sure this gets published Wednesday on my show. Yeah, we will.
They stopping down at her house?
I'm waiting to see. No.
They're going right on down.
Back.
Yeah, so you're back.
Yeah.
Anyway, so sorry about that. People were like talking amongst themselves here, so you get rushed back into the
Yeah.
recording booth. But anyway, I saw that play out, and he seemed kind of I'm sorry if you want to say this, and if you're a friend or family member of this guy, oh well, I'm not going to say it. Well, hold on here.
I just want to point something out before I forget too. What I find incredibly funny about the unprofessionalism that's been demonstrated here, lack of professionalism, is that this is I think the second time the governor has said wear a mask, and there's public officials. Tuttle's not wearing a mask. Several times he was within 6 feet of me, and Sergeant whomever was literally right on the other side of the fence, and don't you snatch your papers out of my hand. But I didn't, for one thing, and two, you're wrinkling up my power of attorney. That he didn't want to believe. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I think a judge has to sign this. No.
Power of attorney.
Anybody can grant somebody a power of attorney.
Well, let's face it, a lot of times when it's needed, It's like
But it
you're
has
not
to be
going to have a judge
notarized and
around.
witnessed by somebody else.
Right, you just witness it. Do you have a witness, or?
Yeah, it's notarized.
Oh, so that's notarized.
Yeah, it's notarized.
Well, see-
It was notarized at her bank.
Okay, I'm going to get closer, Mike, to say this. Cops, if you think you're going to enforce the law, learn it.
Yeah.
Learn what you're talking about. Because guess what? I was going to also bring this point up, too. There's a difference between power of attorney and being a lawyer. Okay, you can be a power of attorney like you are in your mom's instance.
Right.
And you can have the power of attorney people, the general population, over, your family's estate. You don't have to be a practicing lawyer
Right.
to have power of attorney.
Right.
Okay.
It's also for like medical and
Right.
other issues. What say something did happen to her? Well, then your bank's got to be dealt with. All that stuff. I can represent her for her landlord because she rents. But the funny thing is the presumption that that he's going to know better than the two people that formulated this document between two individuals. Funny how that comes up again, because we were just talking about gay
Right.
rights, same kind of thing, right?
Right.
People back in the 90s would have realized, hey, power of attorney, I'm your lover, screw your family. They can't come in and take our stuff, you know what I'm saying, when you die. But anyway, the very, very idea that he would question that this legal agreement between two adults like that with a notarized document, which I listed on there as personal property, estate, medical, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've found this over and over and over again every time I've dealt with cops, particularly in Flint. I don't know if anybody remembers or if you remember, but before I left Carriagetown, before I left Stone Street and sold out to Kettering, I did diligently, right to the very end, try to my damnedest to keep that 4-block area, even though it was cut from Carriagetown, the awareness of the fact that this is the last little bit of history that's being demolished. Not like there was a great deal of it left anyway, but it was more the principle of the issue and the fact that Hurley for 20, 30 years was allowed to violate the demolition by neglect local ordinance in Carriagetown by allowing those properties to deteriorate the way they did over 2-3 decades. It's an ordinance. It says historic properties cannot be allowed to be demolished by virtue of neglect. You have to do some sort of maintenance. And so for 20-some odd years, they got away with it. Anyway, my point is about this cop looking at this document and questioning its validity. They generally don't have a problem with that with custody issues. If they've got a signed document by a judge that says that so-and-so's got custody, then they really don't react that way on those kinds of issues. And I say that because, my example of this kind of, I guess, ignorance, lack of professionalism, assumption that they know better, whatever it is. When I was in Carriagetown, just before I sold to Kettering and left, I had fought to try to stop the house from being torn down next to me. Not so much for historic preservation, but because I didn't think the jackoffs that were doing the demolition for Hurley or Kettering were very careful, and I didn't want them to damage my property, and I didn't want my property opened up to anybody to just be able to walk onto it, because that house kind of served also as like a fence line. My fence went to one end, the fence went to the other end. With that house being torn down, I'd have to put up a huge section of fence to keep people out. But I was more concerned about them tearing up the wiring and the underground installation that I had next to the house that was in my yard, but could have easily been damaged. And anyway, I got a restraining order against Hurley that was signed the day that they started tearing the house down, of course, and brought it to that property, tried to present it to the foreman that was tearing the house down. He swung the backhoe at me, sort of, and I just kind of backed off of that situation. We do have that on film, by the way. And so we called the cops. Cops came, and the cop actually looked at this order, this emergency order, that had, I think it was maybe Nethercutt's signature on it, I forget, and actually stood there and said, well, how do I know this is even a judge's signature? Well, why don't you just put the cuffs on me right now for lying to you about something like that? Seriously? There's backhoes tearing a house down. I have an emergency order signed by a Flint judge, well-known Flint judge, and you're going to sit here and actually tell me that you don't believe this is a judge's signature on this order, this restraining order.
Seems like, according to with the timetable you're talking about, the timeline, it would be necessary to prevent damage. Somehow it should be communicated to somebody faster to look at the documentation, or there's a heads up, this is happening, this has happened. See, that's right there. Them not be communicated between people who might possibly be responding to a complaint or have some means to do that. And this is, there's this restraining order's been, issued or whatever. To me, that just shows lack of a communication from one part of the government to the other parts.
Or a demonstration of the communication, because like I said, I didn't get that restraining order actually signed and sealed and available to me until the day of the demolition.
That's what I'm saying, though. But they should be communicated instantly. I mean, especially when they know the timetable was going to be that day, they should have some form of saying, okay, guys, if you get a call for this or something, here's what's happening, and this is a order's been
But
issued.
I'm agreeing with you, but what I'm saying
yeah.
is they probably did that, but they said, you should probably get started on that now so that, the argument to continue tearing it down is a little bit easier.
Right.
You
So,
know
I
what
mean,
I'm saying?
I can see your point now. I missed your point there, but,
So,
Yeah.
this is not an uncommon experience, it's what my mom's going through with this, hit and run is, like I said, it doesn't have to be a hit and run specifically. It could be any number of different types of crimes that take place. They just get to selectively decide and then complain about being overwhelmed after the fact, And the thing is about this hit and run case is, since he didn't want to do anything, as far as the crash report goes, we ended up calling the lieutenant on duty for the night. And that woman and my mom talked for about 10 minutes. And lady, I think she called back and said that Tuttle would be coming out to give us a crash report. So, we followed the chain of command like you're supposed to. And the first two steps didn't get us anywhere. It wasn't until we got to the higher authority, which I think I said in the video, well, we're just going to have to go to a higher authority because obviously you're not doing your job, And he had to come, Officer Tuttle had to come back with his tail tucked between his legs and hand my mom a card with a crash report number on it. So he actually took 2 weeks and 6 hours or 8 hours to do what he should have done July 4th at about 2 a.m. And now we have to see, because we have to follow up, of course, because, I doubt very highly any detectives are going to be beating on the door to try to enforce the law on this crime. But we'll see. My mom has to follow up, and we're going to film that, make sure we got it documented, and go from there. But I just found it ironic that I decided to do this campaign, and right around the same time I decided to come out from under the shadows. This happens to my mom, and we get documented, demonstration of the kind of ineptitude that most police departments, experience on a regular basis, so.
see, I don't know about you, but I think if, I knew somebody was going to run for possible public office or something like that, something I might have to deal with on a regular basis. In this instance, a prosecutor dealing with the law enforcement officers of that area.
Right.
I think I'd kind of be more really willing to be accommodating and trying to be helpful.
What, to the police?
Yeah, no, if I was a cop, I would be like trying to be helpful, to the people that I know that might be running for office or something like that. See, I think I basically schmoozing, I guess. But I mean, that's like acceptable, that perspective. But I just
to do a job, so regardless of who it is.
Well, I think you're right. You got a point there too. But I mean, if the word's out there, you got somebody who's a critic of you. I think you'd go if I'd go a distance to show that maybe we could resolve this or whatever. Try to offer the olive branch, the old olive branch, and it just seems like cops here in Flint.
It's like people getting their property back and getting an apology. It's never. They're always right, regardless.
Yeah.
They get away with so much because of qualified immunity, and then, like for example, in the case that stems back to 2013 with my arrest video, the prosecutor was named in the initial case, of course, but we all had to sit back and wait for the qualified immunity to kick in so that he could be removed from the case. But it didn't stop us from suing the police individually, because they did abuse power. That was malicious prosecution, and they don't have qualified immunity for those things like the prosecutor does. So they're always right as much as they can be with the authority that they have to enforce it. And what do you do as a citizen? Nothing. So schmooze me, it's not going to work. I don't really care, for one thing. I don't desire or require adulation, and I would want cops to just act and treat everyone exactly the same. There's no special privilege for anybody. like they enjoy. Like,
There shouldn't be. There shouldn't be, but we know there is. We all know that.
well, absolutely. Like my
Yeah.
favorite one in Michigan, I don't think anything ever came down really too harshly on those two cops. Remember that about, I don't know, about 12 years ago, those two cops that called into 911 for an ambulance because they had confiscated some pot brownies. The video's out there. I have it somewhere on my computer, but they called in 911 because they thought they were dying because they had taken evidence from a case and ate it and had apparently never had pot brownies before because they thought they were dying.
I remember, was it husband and wife?
Yeah. So
I remember that myself.
I need to look it up. I don't think they ever really got prosecuted for that. But I mean, they took evidence. They stole somebody's property, and at the time, an illegal narcotic. And what happened to them? Did they get slapped around like the average citizen would? No, probably not.
No,
They probably
no.
got off really light. You know what I'm
But
saying?
I'm going to wrap this up for the day. But
Okay.
I mean, next week or so, we'll hopefully have another session where we discuss your run-ins with the law, maybe, and also indicate why you put yourself out there like that, wanting to be the prosecutor. But next week is going to be the election. Isn't the election next Tuesday? The
What, the primary?
primary.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, primary. I just want to tell people that it just struck me because I had a friend who works the polls, and they told me they couldn't be in the studio that day. So, anyway,
Well, I just want to say, in regards to the primary, I don't think Layton's got anybody else opposing him. So, that should be something else people think about is if there's no opposition and nobody running against the person that's been there for 10 years or more, you should really question that, And it brings me up to an issue I can bring up next week is the no confidence vote. They got rid of it, and I think we should bring it back, and it should be counted as right alongside all the other votes that are out there for A or nay on whatever issue or person it is. But used to be if everybody or the majority voted no confidence, then there was no confidence, and that person didn't get elected, and you had to do it again or find another candidate.
Oh.
So.
it goes to show you that they've always constantly tried to remove the process for the average person to have recourse
That's right.
to address poor leadership. But anyway, like again, I say this again, if you are a friend of these officers, as we highlighted, and you want to bring this to their attention, and they can come out and you could want to discuss their side of it, please, give them our numbers, give them our
Comment
Facebook
on
page.
Facebook, whatever.
Yeah. Would you want to sit down with these people during a discourse or what?
Assuming Tuttle can not speak over everybody and let people have a turn. Yeah, I could absolutely
Well,
do
we'll
that.
put that out there for you. And but anyway, it's always interesting talking to you, Adam, and hopefully we'll see you next week or so. And
Yep, absolutely.
Anyway, people listening, and I know you're going to have detractors, and they're going to be critical of you, but you know that already.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Hate.
So anyway, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks,
All right.
John.